This is AndyTube, and this sewing machine is Regina, the queen of vintage Singer zigzag sewing machines. Regina is a Singer SLANT-O-MATIC 403A special zigzag sewing machine. And this is the introductory video to a new series that I'm going to start restoring this machine. And as I prefer this model over the more famous 401A Slant-O-Matic, I'm choosing it for this series. But I'm hoping at the latest by the end of this series that those of you who use machines or collect them will pick yourself up one of these. At the most there was only 300,000 made, and some of them the parts get robbed to be used on the 401A. And the 401A, they made about 1 million of them, and they just Singer advertised the heck out of them. That was all their money was put into that model. So I think that's part of why it's so popular too, is it was always back then kind of called the Cadillac of sewing machines. Now in this video here I've had over the years people ask me, what do you look at when you go to buy a used machine? You know, if you're considering buying it, what do you check out? What are things to look for so you know what you're getting? So I thought I'd go over a couple of those things, a few of those things in this video. I'm not going to be doing any restoration work in this video, but the first thing that I do is look cosmetically. You know, if the machine is all beat up, I'm not going to buy it. If it has a scratched cover plate or hand wheel or something like that, I would still consider it, because I can buy replacement parts most of the time. So like this machine I felt very nice cosmetically. I don't care how dirty it is because of my crud cutter cleaning method. Really the only cosmetic flaw that I found was this scrape in the paint right here, which I mentioned in the announcement video for this, is usually from the metal latch housing inside the wooden or plastic cover, where people don't take it off the machine straight or put it on straight up and down, and this gets scratched up. That can often, it's very common to see some kind of a scratch or scrape here. But the rest of the machine, front and back, was good. That kind of a scrape can also happen up here on the nose, so I look for that. So if it passes cosmetically, the next thing I do is just try and turn the hand wheel. I never force anything, any lever, any dial, the hand wheel, because it could just be stuck from old dried up oil and grease, and I don't want to bend or break anything. But this one turned fine. It's, you know, I want to see, is it frozen? How much work is it going to be for me to do? Because that's going to maybe change the offer that or the amount I'm willing to pay for the machine. If it's frozen solid, I know it's going to take more work. This one does turn very nicely. As a matter of fact, so I can get this in view, there's a little bit of play in here, and that doesn't concern me, but it does turn smoothly. While I'm turning it, I look to see if the take-up lever is going to go up and down in time with that, and the needle bar is going up and down. And I'll take a look at the feed dog here and make sure that it's moving properly. If this feed regulator is functioning, I'll turn it all the way left and just gently move it up and down and see if it goes the length. So I'll put it down and turn the hand wheel, and I'll make sure that the feed dog is functioning. It's a serious problem if it's not. Even on a belt driven machine, you know, this is all gear, but if this isn't moving, there is definitely something wrong. On a belted machine, it could be a broken plastic gear or a loose or missing or broken belt. So that's all doing pretty good here so far. The next thing I know is a problem area on any vintage machine is the tension unit. And it's funny. I knew when I went to buy it, I tried the tension unit and it's not functioning properly. When you lift up the presser bar, the lift lever back there, a lever inside the nose pushes a pin that's inside the tension stud there that's supposed to push back on the spring and loosen the tension of the disc. And that's so when you're threading the machine, the thread gets between the discs, and when you're removing your work, you're sewed, you finished your seam or whatever, you lift up your presser foot and you're going to pull it out. You want the thread to be slack. And turning this lever didn't loosen it. Lifting the lifter lever, or turning this knob to 0, didn't loosen it at all. Lifting the lever didn't loosen it at all. I said, okay, something is wrong here. Now it lifted very easily, so the lever inside isn't stuck. You know, I've had that before. Or the presser bar itself is stuck in a bushing, so don't force it. Like I said, if it's very hard to lift because it's dirty, just be aware of that, but don't force it. This lifted easily right away. So there's something wrong with the tension unit. And then, upon closer inspection, I don't know, will this show up here? Look, there's no plus or minus up here. The indicator here is, when I feel it, I can feel the plus and minus sign on the bottom. So somebody, and if I turn this, it'll just come apart. So somebody, you know, played with it or broke it, and I'm aware of that, and that affects how much I will pay for the machine. The next known problem area on the models that have this are these throat plate position bracket. And to the right, the throat plate or needle plate is down. When you lift it straight up, it raises the plate above the travel pattern of the feed. So you can darn, you can free motion sew, you can monogram. And then going to the left all the way raises it up higher so you can slip off one throat plate or needle plate and slip on the other. Like you want to change to the straight stitch plate from the multi-purpose plate, or you want to take the plate off to go in there and clean out all the lint. And as common in this, mine won't go. It won't go past the up. It goes there, but when I push even pretty firmly here, it won't keep going. Okay, so I'm not going to really push to force it, because it's very common that those pins are all gunked up and crudted up and stuck in there. Now sometimes you can get it to partially come up, and sometimes one pin will come up and the other won't, and that's also very common. So I know I've got that situation. I don't think any parts are missing, because it does function the first half of the raise. But at the least, I know I'm going to have to take that all apart and clean it and reassemble. So that I take that into account. Now, I've already talked about the feed regulator and how that, if that was stuck and wouldn't move, I would still make sure my feed dog traveled. This has a very simple bobbin winder system that'll probably never wear out, and it's working fine. If this is hesitant to turn, or has the old beige tire that's as hard as a rock or crumbling apart, but there's a place to oil it, and you can take it apart and clean it and oil it, and we'll be doing that. So that's okay. Now let's see if I can get up here a little bit higher and closer, and I'm going to take a look at the only two controls up here. Is my left, center, right, and needle position, and my stitch width lever. Okay, so to operate this, it's in the center position, and I would, well, I'll show that later. You push this in to disengage a mechanism, and then you move it up to move the needle bar left, or you move it down to move the needle bar right. So I would just kind of try that and see, okay, I can push it in. Let me see if I can push it in and move it up. Okay, it's hesitant, but it does it, and I can see the needle bar move left, which I'll show you in a moment. Then I'll push it in and I'll move it down, which should move the needle bar to the right. So left all the way down is right, and in the center is the center. Now what I'm seeing is when I move the lever to move the needle bar to the right, the needle bar is not moving. So let me show you the needle bar now while I move the lever up there. See if you're going to be able to kind of see there. I got the light on the needle there. So where am I? That's my center position, and it's pretty good. It's lined up with the little slot between the toes of the foot, so that would be dead center. It's like, okay, needle's in the center. I'll push the lever in and move it up, which shouldn't move the needle bar to the left, and it does. Okay, I'll push the lever in and move it down to the center, and moves back to the center. Now I'm going to try moving the needle bar to the right, which just a moment ago wouldn't work. See how it kicks it left? Even though I'm telling it move to the right, it kicks it left for a second and then back to center. Did you see that? So I know from working on this machine that the mechanism up here that controls that, it moves around the needle bar driving arm, that's either dirty or more likely it's out of adjustment from lack of maintenance. Okay, so I know that's going on, right? Then I would check to see if my lever even moves. And on this machine, there's a little notch when you get to the S for straight, which is where the number 1 would be. It kind of pops up and locks in there. So when you want to go to zigzag, you would push the lever down a little bit and start sliding it to the right. Oh, and it moved easily. So there I've got it at 2, 3. Yeah, this is moving very easily. So that's in good shape, or it's disconnected inside. So, but that's a good sign. Let me put this throat plate thing back down. So my next step is going to be to take off the covers. And if the seller will not let me do that, I don't buy the machine. The top cover, can get up any higher here? Not much. Let's see here. You see that? Yeah, the top cover is 2 screws, one up here by the front thread guide, and one over here in front of the right spool pin. Just 2 nice screws, and we're going to back those out, and we're going to lift the cover straight up. And we're going to do it by lifting at the ends of the cover. Now you may be aware that this model has a flip-up door here that allows you access to change the fashion discs. These take what's called the B fashion disc, or more commonly called the top hat fashion disc, and they snap in and out. I haven't even opened the cover, that little door in the arm cover. I just want to see inside here. So I'm just going to lift it straight up, and be aware that when you take this cover off, that this door is going to swing open, the front nose door. When the cover's on, there's a spring up in here. See? But when you lift this cover up, boom, that door's going to fall open. Okay? Then I'm going to look underneath here. I'll shake out the screws, and I'm going to see if the other parts are here. There's one hinge for the flap door. There's the other hinge. So now I'll take a look, and I'll open this up. Oh, it works good. It flips up open, and it goes back into a resting position. Okay. And the hinges look good, and the screws are in place. And this little curved spring here is what the door and this little ball bearing up here come in and push on this, and the tension of this spring is what keeps the door closed. So my cover looks great, doesn't it? No worries. There's what the screws look like, by the way. So now I'm going to carefully look at this door, because to me this is the only weak spot on these 301, 401, 403, the Rocketeers, maybe some 600s, I don't know. But this door is held on by these 2 little tiny hinge pins, just little thin things. And it's very common that they have one that's broken or fallen out or cracked. And you know, I've gone to lift off the cover and have this just fall off. So the way to get it off is just to lift it straight up about a 1/8 of an inch and pull it away. Because there's a hinge down here at the bottom, and there's one up here at the top. I'll show them to you. So you just very carefully lift it up and pull it off. There we go. So So you can see this little hinge. It's just like a little finishing nail piece kind of stuck in there. And I've had these broken off, or the little pins are gone. But that's how you get it off. And while I'm here, I see if the threading diagram is still in here. It's nice, very nicely printed on a piece of aluminum in there. Okay, so I have the top and front covers off. I'm going to go ahead and look just at the general condition of the nose end. And I see a lot of dried oil and stuff, you know, in here, and some dirt and grease and stuff. But here's my see if I can get out of the shadow. Then there's my lifting lever, and you see it's lifting up the pressor bar. And the pressure adjusting thumb nut works for it. We'll be getting into that. So let me turn the wheel and we'll see our needle bar. Yay, goes up and down. Very dirty in there. And our thread take-up lever is going along timed with it. So that looks good. Like I said, I don't worry about the dirt and grease too much, because I'm going to degrease the whole machine. Now I'm going to get up here into the top of this guy, and I see my, what they call the cam stack. To me it's more of a pattern selector with a little follower arm that has a little pin that follows along the pattern when this is turned. And this is the needle bar driving arm I'll be telling you all about in the series. And I'm going to move the position selector around and see what happens up here with these parts. How come it's not moving the needle bar to the right? Yeah, I think it's just adjusting and cleaning, which is common. And then here is the stitch width, which you'll see moving the selector lever, which is going to change. Did you see that move? See, it's going to change the position of that needle bar driving arm so that this follower, which pushes on the paddle, which moves that arm to and from the nose, which is what makes the needle vibrate back and forth. That looks pretty good. It's all there and it's moving, so that's just the cleaning. And then whenever you put on or take off this disc, your width should be in straight. Should be all the way left. On the 401, I think you have AK and the needle position is 3. That's straight stitch. And the reason you do that is because it puts this, see, if you're in zigzag, you can have this stuff pushing on the fashion disc. But when you go into straight stitch, it moves all that out of the way, and then you can just pull up on that disc and pop it right off the cam shaft, and you can get down in there and see some other things. So this is all good. Okay, then I'm going to come over here and let's see, move this around. Take a look at the area of the hand wheel gear where it meets the pinion gear of the motor shaft. and this area is usually pretty dirty. See, there's a little bit of clay in that. It's not too bad. But I'm going to turn it because I want to see this. This gear is a type of plastic called Textilite. And I personally have never seen one damaged, but I have been sent pictures of ones where it's broken or teeth are off. So I'm just going to turn the hand wheel and go through and see how the gear, these little teeth look in here. Again, it's very dirty. I don't care. Look here. Just rub a little bit and see all that muck. And it's all, grease is all thrown around in here. You know, same old story. But all the teeth look to be in place. Very nice. So, okay, at this point I'm pretty much ready to buy the machine, and I figured out what I would offer for it. And I'm not worried about getting a machine at the cheapest price. Over the years I bought $20 machines and had to put $50 or $60 worth of parts into it, when for 50 bucks I could have bought a nice working machine that just needed a good cleaning, you know. So the last thing that I want to do is test the foot controller and hear the motor run. You know, I just want to hear the motor run. Okay, so this 403 model comes with two separate cord systems. It has the old button style speed controller, on the end of which is a little 2-prong plug. Okay, looks like that. And with the cord facing back, it plugs into a terminal under here that's probably going to be in the shade, shadow of the light. There you can see it. So I'm going to plug that in. So you might have just seen the last series I did on the Type A foot controller where this was a three-prong plug. This has two separate cords. One I just showed you is wired into the foot controller and plugged in down here. The other cord is just called the power cord. And one end is plugged into the power source, and the other end looks like that, but it only has the one cord going in. Okay, and if you see, there's a little curve to it. Like most of them, the curve goes down, so this cord will go to the back also, and should just plug in here. Okay, then let's see, there's a power source here. I'll plug this in, and I guess let me see if there is a bulb. Let me see if it works. Yeah, it's an old incandescent bulb. We'll be changing that to an LED, of course. Now, to test the motor, I just want to test it. I already know all this stuff is moving freely, except the needle bar doesn't go to the right of center position. But what I would do is disengage this throw out, like I was going to wind the bobbin. So when I power it up, if it will power it up, I'm just running the motor. That's all I want to hear. It's just the motor run, you know. So I would go in here and loosen this, but in this case, it is frozen, and I couldn't get it off. So I don't know if somebody put the washer incorrectly, or if Samson or somebody, you know, the Hulk, tightened it up. But I'll have to work on that. That would not discourage me from buying the machine. I figure that's something I can fix. But, you know, it's like, hey, what's wrong with this, sir? Why can't I do this? This doesn't work, you know. And then you start negotiating a lower price. But let's see if it will. I can hear the motor. Can you hear it? Oh, there it goes. Look, I have that fully depressed. And I know that's the foot controller. I don't believe that's the motor. And like I said, I've already turned this, and it turns pretty freely. So this is out of adjustment, or the carbons are burnt and dirty or whatever. But the motor runs. Okay. So you can see sometimes why a family member who would inherit this says, well, it barely runs, right? Look, I can't sew like that all day. And it has no tension up here, no proper tension, so they're like, let's sell it. Or these are why machines end up for sale on Goodwill.com. But those are some of the things that I look for on a vintage machine. Now, there's one other here. Let's go down here. I'll open up the bottom cover here, take off the thumb nut, and drop the bottom plate or oil pan. And we'll take a look in here. And see, here's our motor mount bracket, all the dried up dirty oil and grease. Not too bad really, this one. I'd rather have a machine that had too much oil in a way. Some people like to find a dry machine because it's easier to clean, and I go along with that. But I don't want a machine so dry that the parts have been damaged. But anymore, since I started using this crud cutter for cleaning a few years ago, I don't care. I don't care what it is. If everything is here and it works, I'm going to clean it. Here's the lever I was telling you about. See, it should move over all the way here, and it's not. Now, sadly for me, this has a nylon adjusting nut, and we'll get to that, and it's okay. You just have to be real careful with them, because you know it's like 60-some-year-old nylon. So I prefer the models that have the metal. And on my wife's 403A, I bought a metal one to replace it and kept the plastic, so I got a spare. Okay. That's it. So, isn't she a beauty? Oh, get her set up here. Now, along with this came a complete, full set of the original. Look, it even had. It was factory issued or store issued with 3 number 14 needles and 3 number 16 needles. Isn't that cute? And it has the paper manual, which is always nice. And then it actually had the full complement that was issued, with 8 fashion discs and several presser feet and the straight stitch needle plate. And it even had both screwdrivers, which I find to be rare. And it had the lint brush, the original Singer lint brush, and what was called the large screwdriver. And Come on out of there, you little guy. The little aluminum, what was called the small screwdriver. That was all here. And I'll be going over this set somewhere in the series. I'll probably do most of the mechanical stuff first. But since I got that, I figured I would go over that. And then she also included this, which is the slant needle buttonholer. Yay! In the pink Jetson case, with the 5 original templates for buttonholes. So that was a good deal to get that. And she said, "Oh, I almost forgot. Do you want this monogrammer?" Because I bought it, I only used it once. I said, "Oh, does it work?" She goes, "Yeah, I just only needed it once on one project." But she said it does fit the slant machine, and it's got the instruction manual, and it's got the letter template in there. I don't know how to use this. I've never used it, but it had the complete device and the original, according to her now, the original lint brush and stuff. And one thing that I have found over time with these buttonholers, and this is the monogram, it looks a lot like a buttonholer, doesn't it? Is that this plate that you put over the needle plate is often missing, and that she does have that. So I was pleased to see all this going on. And then these are the letter templates. Like this is the letter Q. This is the template that you put in. So maybe I'll figure that out. And it had the heavy duty attachment screw. And she said there was something else, and maybe this is it. I see some kind of a needle plate in here. I didn't even see this before. Oh, look at that. That's the straight stitch. Huh. There was one of these in the attachment box too. So maybe this has a separate one? I don't know. I don't know about that. I'll have to check into it. Like I said. But after Regina is all purdied up and just running well, I might go over some of these attachments and stuff and see how they work. Be interested to see the monogrammer. So it's going to be a lengthy series, and I know some of you regular viewers, you know, you've already seen me. This is how you remove the needle bar. This is how you put it back in, stuff like that. But I got to treat each machine on its own for viewers who come here and they've never touched a vintage machine, and they have their moms or grandmas or aunties 403A, and you know, look at this. It's got no tension, and it like barely, you know, barely runs, but they're interested, so I want to help them get their machine. And believe me, when we're done, Regina is going to be a very fine working machine. So I hope you'll join me for at least some of the videos, the ones that seem interesting to you. And you can subscribe if you like, then you get notified when I put up a new video. I hope to do a couple a week, which I have been doing for the last 4 years. And this is in celebration of my fourth year on YouTube. And thanks for tuning in, and I hope to see you in the Regina Queen of Zigzag Machine series. Take care.